Terry Battisti with the Bass Fishing Archives, and I'm sitting here with Ott DeFoe. Classic number 4 for you, right?
Yep.
Classic number 45. And we're going to talk. Ott's going to tell us a little bit about how he got into bass fishing, and maybe that aha moment when he finally clicked that he needed to be bass fishing for a living. So,
yep.
Ott?
Yep. For me, my first experience truly bass fishing was with my dad, with my brother. We took a family trip down to Lake Okeechobee in Florida because we had saw all the TV shows of how great the fishing was, and so that was what we decided we wanted to do. We'd been watching it, on TV forever, and we had bass fished around home some, but it wasn't real productive for us. So we went down to Okeechobee. We hired a guide, stayed at Roland Martin's place down there, and went out and caught a bunch of fish. Caught some really nice ones, a lot of 3, 4, 5 pound fish. So it was truly an experience of, this is pretty cool. And I can remember meeting a guy there, just in the parking lot one night, and me and my brother saying, yeah, we want to be bass fishermen, pro fishermen one day. And he said, boy, it's a lot of work. You get early mornings and late nights and fishing in the cold and fishing in the rain and all other kind of things. But I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. And that was the very first taste of it. But then went back home, started fishing tournaments. Fished the first tournament I ever fished with my dad. It was actually his first tournament as well. I was 9 years old. Fished team events with my dad and with some other friends of ours around home. Whenever I was about 12, we joined a Bass Federated Club. Fished in that club for about 5 or 6 years while fishing other team events, BFLs, regional type stuff. Worked my way up into the EverStarts with FLW at that point in time whenever I was 18. Then at 21, started fishing the FLW Tour. Fished it for 4 years before deciding I wanted to try to switch to bass to make the Elite Series, make the Classic, that kind of thing. In 2010, fished the Southern Opens, qualified for the Elite Series 2011, and I've been fishing the Elite Series ever since.
So what was that aha moment? Was there an aha moment that really told you in your heart that you could compete with the top level pros? Was there a tournament?
As far as knowing that I could compete, I would have to say was probably my very first FLW Tour event. The very first tour event I fished, I actually made a top 10 in. It was the only top 10 I made that year out of all 6 events. But I finished up that year making the Cup, their big event at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So, for one, having a top 10, and 2, being there throughout the points, sticking it out, making the Cup that year, that was probably gave me enough confidence to say, yeah, I think I can handle this.
Right. Right, so now I want to switch gears.
Okay.
Crankbait fish, or
yeah.
crankbait manufacturing. How the hell did you get into that?
For me, living in East Tennessee, it's like what we were talking. Nearly everybody makes crankbaits or knows somebody who makes crankbaits.
Yeah.
But the thing about them, if you don't make them yourself, if you're buying them, they're 10, 12, 15, 20 bucks a piece, to go to the store or go to somebody's shop and buy them. So it was almost out of necessity. It felt like there, because if you weren't using those homemade baits, it seemed like you weren't catching as many fish. So
right.
At that point in time, I wasn't sponsored by any of those guys, and I said, I always loved working with wood. It was just, I took, in high school, we had carpentry 1, 2, and 3. Well, I took carpentry 1, 2, 3, and then I took 1 again. Just because I love working with wood. I mean, it's something that's always been there for me. So, man, there can't be much to this. I can figure it out, and I knew the materials were pretty inexpensive. And it was just something I played around with for a while, and it took me starting out of building 10 baits, like 2 would run.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to finally figure out the process of how you get the bill angle and the line tie and the weight and all those other things positioned right. And I finally did and was able to make a lot of baits. But honestly, the reason I started doing it was because I wanted a lot of them, and I couldn't afford to buy them. So I was gonna figure a way to make them.
And you've never sold your baits ever?
No, I actually, whenever I very first started making them and got some, to where they were running, where every one of them would run, that I did actually in the fishing show in Knoxville. I actually sold baits at a couple shows, just something to do and try to make a little bit of extra cash to make more baits and that kind of thing. But I've not sold any in a very long time. No, I don't have enough time to try to make many.
So where you live in the Knoxville area, I mean, you can't swing a flipping stick without hitting a bait maker,
Right.
bait maker.
Yeah.
Did you have any mentors that
Oh, yeah.
anybody that showed you?
I absolutely did. Yeah, the guy that I grew up fishing team tournaments with, Jason Nichols, his dad made crankbaits, and so he showed me, how he did it and his style of making them, as well as Craig Powers, who fished on the FOW tour for a long time.
Yeah,
and
well-known bait maker.
Oh yeah, I mean makes some outstanding baits, and those two guys they went about it very differently. Steve Nichols, his baits were handmade. I mean, the only thing he did with the machine was a scroll saw to cut the outline of the bait out. Everything from that point on was done by hand.
Wow.
Drilling the holes, those kind of things were done with a drill press. But everything else, rounding the sides, like Craig Powers, and the way he showed me, we use a router. You do it with a machine, it just makes it, they're all uniform, they're all, as much as they can be for what you're doing. Where Steve would take an X-Acto knife, knock the sides off to kind of start the rounding process, then sandpaper to finish rounding it off to make it smooth. And doing it that way, you have to have a steady hand, but you're never going to get two the same, which is, it's okay. I mean, that's a good thing, and they're all very unique. But I wanted a little bit more uniform, and doing a router it's a lot quicker, and it's more uniform.
So what kind of wood are you using?
All balsa wood.
All balsa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That takes some talent with a router then.
A table router with a bait that's that big,
Yeah.
and that router bit spinning as fast as it is, and you're doing, you got to hold on to it, and you don't want to touch the blade.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Ott, I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.